Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we are going to study about the new material in history of American literature, that's Modernism and Harlem Renaissance. With me, Maria Zakia Alvisuma. This is the literary timeline of the history of American literature. Previously, we have learned about Native American literature, explorations, colonialization, and revolutions period, Romanticism and Transcendentalism, Realism and Naturalism, and then now we are going to study about Modernism, Harlem Renaissance. What we are going to study today, we are going to study about the historical background and also the literary development of this period. Okay, take a look first on the historical period of this historical background of this time. This time is known as the Jazz Age. What is Jazz Age? The Jazz Age here is that the time when the business flourished and it caused a significant growth of the American lifestyle. Yeah, it's followed by the increasings of the modern entertainment, for example, like movies, nightclub, fashions, and dance. This is the picture of the life of the Americans. This is the Jazz Age. The music jazz is flourished here, dancing, and also nightclub, fashion. This is the theater in which the American can get the entertainment. They can watch movie here in every weekend. Okay, and then the second one is the women were given the right to vote in 1920s. It means that American women in particular feel liberated. They cut their hair short, both wear short, and then flapper dresses. Yeah, this is the characteristic of the woman in this era. Ya, the style mereka punya rambut bob, ya, mereka with the dressnya seperti ini ya, punya dress seperti ini, kemudian pakai topi ya. Ini this is the style of the American woman here. Okay, besides the American dream is that America is the dream of land. It means that all of the people can have the same opportunity to get the career, to pursue the happiness in America. There is no racism anymore here. All of the people all the men is equal here. This is the American way of life here. And then this is the era of the great advancement and technology. The average of the American house is equipped with automobile, radio, telephone, camera, sewing machines, and typewriter. Jadi mostly tiap-tiap keluarga di Amerika itu dia punya mobil ya. Ini represent dari mobil di Amerika ya di gambar ini ya. Okay. And then those are the positive of the historical background. But here there's some of the that make a negative impact here in America. For example, like U.S. involvement in the World War I. The involvement of America in the World War is relatively brief. It's in the 1917 up to 1918. Ya, di sini keterlibatan Amerika itu singkat ya, dari tahun 1917 sampai tahun 1918, kurang lebih hanya 1 tahun gitu ya. But it has a big impact on the young generations here. Young generations in this time is called as the lost generations. Generasi yang hilang. Mereka ada degradasi moral, degradasi sosial, culture-nya hilang dan sebagainya itu ya. Okay, and then the next is the World Great Depressions of 1930s. Okay, in this time, this is called as the Great Depressions, depresi berat ya Amerika ya. Karena apa? Workers lost their jobs, factories shut down, business and banks failed, farmers unable to harvest. Petani merugi, tidak bisa panen, banyak sekali unemployment atau kehilangan pekerjaan, stock market dan sebagainya yang gagal ya. Nah ini dia, dilihat di sini banyak sekali antrian untuk apa ini, free coffee and ya, bagi kaum yang unemployment ini ya. This is the Great Depressions in the 1930s, and then Japan attacked the United States at Pearl Harbor. It bring US to to produce such a new technology, for example, like nuclear bomb, ships, airlines, jeeps, and other supplies. Okay, and this is some of the novels that represents the real history or the social conditions of the America. The first is the Great Gatsby, and then this is the portrait of the American dream, and this is the portrait of the American lifestyle that they mostly have the automobile, and then for example, like the home is equipped by the new technology like radio and others. And then this novel is portrait of the conditions of the World War One, the involvement of America, portrait of the lost generations here, and then this one is the portrait of the Great Depressions, yeah, in which the many farmers left the Midwest for California in search for job. Petani gagal panen sehingga menuju ke California untuk mencari pekerjaan. Okay, now we come to the modernist prose, yeah, prose which is published in the era of modernism here. Okay, here the prose that make it different from the previous period, realism and naturalism, is about the technique here. Here, the author mostly experimented on the technique of the writing itself, yeah. Okay, let's see on the general characteristic of the prose in the modernist era. Here, the first is that they experimented with the viewpoint, bereksperimen dengan POV, point of view, sudut pandang pengarang. Ya, no longer it sufficient to write a straightforward third person. Jadi karya sastra itu tidak hanya ditulis menggunakan sudut pandang orang pertama maupun sudut pandang orang ketiga, but here can be used with the multiple narrative point of view. Nanti kita akan lihat dari contoh karya sastranya ya. And then symbolism. Dan the theme. Temanya berkisar antara alienations, kesendirian, keterasingan, love and death, ya, ketika perang dunia, lost generation, failure, despair, loss of faith, ya, portrait of the lost generation. Okay, and then the next is plot is fragmented, ceritanya terputus-putus, ya. Writers want to move beyond realism to introduce such a disjointed timelines. Jadi memang potret tentang kehidupan masyarakat, tetapi harus berbeda dengan era realisme. Itu dengan apa? Dengan cara make a plot not is in the chronological order. Plotnya tidak runtut ya. Jadi mungkin di tengah-tengah dulu, baru kemudian ke depan belakang gitu ya. And then also the technique of the stream of consciousness, ya. Represent the confused and sometimes random jumps of the human mind. Ya, jadi kadang-kadang cerita berdasarkan memori. Kadang-kadang teringat ini, cerita ini. Nah, itu dia beberapa teknik. Now we go to the example of the literary works. Okay, one of the leading authors of this era is Ernest Hemingway. This is The Sun Also Rises. We have already explained it. This is about the impact of the World War One to the young generations, and they are called as the lost generations. And then the next, this is one of the leading novels. I think that you are familiar with this novel. This is The Old Man and the Sea. Yeah, this novel, This Old Man and the Sea. This novel is talking about a poor old fisherman who heroically catch a huge fish. A huge fish in the middle of the sea. Yeah, so here the authors, Ernest Hemingway, involve his characters in the danger situations in order to reveal the inner natures. Jadi dia perjuangan dia untuk mendapatkan ikan yang besar itu ya di tengah-tengah laut itu ya. Jadi untuk memperlihatkan sifat ya. Jadi the struggle will reveal the inner natures of the characters. A Farewell to Arms. This is talking about the love affair of the American soldier and English nurse during the war. Nah, itu dia. Kemudian ada short stories, Cat in the Rain, cerita pendek, Cat in the Rain, Hills in Lightweight Elephants, dan sebagainya ini. Okay, now the characteristic of the works by Ernest Hemingway here is that the work rich in symbolism, penuh simbol. Jadi karya sastra yang penuh dengan simbol, teka-teki gitu ya, signs, fragmented narrative, cerita yang not in the chronological order, tidak runtut ya. Jadi uh, ceritanya itu tidak diceritakan kenapa kok begini, tiba-tiba langsung dia menjadi, misalnya tiba-tiba dia langsung menghadapi masalah tanpa diceritakan sebelumnya kenapa dia menghadapi masalah gitu gitu ya. Oke. Open-ended story, it means that the reader contribute to the end of the ending based on the interpretation of the reading, interpretations of the reader. Jadi kadang-kadang cerita menggantung, itu berdasarkan interpretasi dari reader. Now I will give you the example of story by Ernest Hemingway. I'll give you the short story ya. Saya kasih cerita singkatnya saja, short story di sini. The title of the short story here is The Hills Like White Elephants. Okay, this is talking about two main characters here, American men, American men and the girl here. They are talking in the railway stations, yeah, and then the background of the railway here is the hills here. Okay. Okay, here the author just describe the scenes and presents the story through the dialogue between the protagonist. Jadi ceritanya itu pertama narator memperlihatkan settingnya, ya itu tadi. Kemudian setelah itu para main karakternya berdialog. Hanya itu saja ceritanya. Nah, what is the dialogue talking about here? Here, the story make use of symbolic representations through every image that appear in it. Yeah. The two main characters here have a few drinks in the train stations and then speak about the hills in the background. Ya. Mereka bercakap-cakap ya tentang hills yang ada di sini. The woman say that, look at the hills. That looks like a white elephant. And then the man said that, I think that I do not see that. Perempuannya berkata, lihatlah bukit itu seperti white elephant. White elephant here represents like the pregnancy, the womb of the woman. Ketika perempuan itu hamil, maka perutnya akan membesar. Lah, itu terlihat seperti the bump of the white elephant here. Seperti gajah putih gitu ya. Tetapi yang laki-laki tidak bisa melihat, tidak melihat seperti itu. Ya, maybe it represents something. Okay, and then they talk about the operations. The man has a different viewpoint on the operations itself. It's different with the goal. The man say that it's okay if you have an operations, but the girl say the girl would like to have the pregnancy itself. So the story here present a fragment from the life of the protagonist. Tiba-tiba ceritanya seperti ini tanpa ada apa sih kenapa penyebab dari operations ini, yang mana disimpulkan bahwa operations ini adalah abortion, ya. Aborsi. Kenapa kok sampai terjadi aborsi ini? We can get from the interpretations. We look at the social conditions of this time. This has happened in the era of 1920s, in which there is an extravagant lifestyle, the lost of the generations. Maybe it's based on the interpretations. Maybe what is it? The two main characters here led to a hedonistic lifestyle after the First World War. So social values and family structure led them to have a free life. And then they would like to get rid of the responsibilities. Mereka hidup bebas, kemudian mereka mempunyai baby, tapi dia tidak ingin punya rasa tanggung jawab seperti itu ya. Okay, there are lots of interpretations we can get from the this short story. Yeah. Okay, another leading authors of this period is F. Scott Fitzgerald, and he is famous with the novel The Great Gatsby here. The Great Gatsby. We have already explained it before in the previous slides that this is the representative of the jazz age, the extravagant lifestyle, about American dream. Okay, mostly the novels talking about the American dream, the way of life of the Americans in the 1920s. Okay, the characteristic of F. Scott Fitzgerald's story is that this is told not by using the first POV or point of view, nor the third point of view, but it's used by another character point of view. Jadi cerita yang diceritakan oleh orang lain dalam cerita itu, peran lain, karakter lain dalam cerita itu. Nah, gitu ya. Nanti kita akan lihat di ceritanya sebentar setelah ini ya. Okay, for example, like here, the Great Gatsby. Yeah, we take a look on the Great Gatsby. Great Gatsby is the main character. Gatsby is the main character, and the story of the Great Gatsby here is told by Nick Carraway. Nick Carraway is not the main character, but he is only the supporting character, and the story is told by the point of view of Nick here as the neighbor of Great Gatsby. He told the story based on the memory of Nick, based on Nick's stream of consciousness also. Yeah. Okay. Let us take a look on the story of the Great Gatsby here. This is Nick Carraway in the first picture. We take a look here. This is Nick Carraway and this is Great Gatsby. Gatsby called as the Great here by Nick. Actually, the name is only J. Gatsby, but Nick here say that he is the Great Gatsby. Means that he is a man with the what is it? With the wealth, yeah, rich here. Gatsby can have a party in every weekend, and he can invite all of the people in that city. Yeah. It means that he is very famous in having a party. Yeah. Dia punya kekayaan yang luar biasa melimpah ya, sampai akhirnya dia bisa menciptakan mengundang orang sekota untuk party atau pesta bebas tanpa biaya gitu ya. Itu adalah J. Gatsby. Okay, and then J. Gatsby here has a what is it? Has a love story. Yeah? After Nick being close with Gatsby, and then Nick can can tell that Gatsby actually has a relationship, a love relationship with his cousin Daisy. Yeah. And then here, the purpose of Nick is that he would like to reunite Gatsby with Daisy, but Daisy itself has already been married with Tom. Okay, after being reunited with Daisy here, there is a problem regarding on this relationship that Tom doesn't really like this kind of relationship. However, Tom itself has already have another woman in his life, and the woman is Mrs. Myrtle. And then, in the way, this is Mrs. Myrtle. This is here. Mrs. Myrtle. However, in one day, after having a conflict with Tom, here Daisy and this is Daisy and Gatsby driving a car, and in that time, Daisy driving the car, but she crashes a woman, and the woman here is Mrs. Myrtle. Jadi pada suatu hari Gatsby dan juga Daisy ini menabrak seorang wanita, yang wanita itu adalah Mrs. Myrtle. And then the husband of Mrs. Myrtle, and then the husband of Mrs. Myrtle, this is, he take revenge to Gatsby. Tom said that actually the one who drive the car is Gatsby. Tom say the lie to him, and then he come to Gatsby, and then he killed Gatsby. He shot Gatsby. That's the happened. That's the very tragic story here. And then what happened next? In the funeral of Gatsby, there is no one coming. Only Nick at the time. And this, from these occasions that we know, all of the people that coming in the party of Gatsby, they do not come to the funeral here of the Gatsby. Gatsby feels so alienated here. Yeah, feels so loneliness here. Feels so lonely here. Okay, this is such an irony here. Okay, that's the story of the Great Gatsby. And then we come to another story by William Faulkner here. Okay, William Faulkner is one of the leading writers in this time. This is the list of the novels. The Son of the Forest as a Light in August, Absalom, Absalom, and some of the short story here. Okay, the leading short story by William Faulkner is Rose for Emily, that's talking about love and death. And then the characteristic here, William Faulkner also used various viewpoints so that the viewpoints is not only in one person but several people here. Discontinued narratives move back and forth through time, like the Rose for Emily. Jadi in the Rose for Emily, it's told in the first scenes. The first scenes is the last scene. Jadi scene pertama dari cerita itu sebenarnya adalah cerita akhirnya. Nah, cerita akhirnya ditampakkan duluan, kemudian lanjut ke kronologi utama, gitu ya. Itu discontinued narratives. Stream of consciousness also. Okay, now we go to the novels of social awareness. Novel that link to the 1930s in the concern of the welfare of the common citizens. Ya, jadi novel tentang social awareness, tentang kesejahteraan dari common citizen atau kehidupan dari masyarakat di era Great Depressions ya, di era Amerika pada saat itu ya. Oke, contohnya adalah siapa? John Steinbeck ya. John Steinbeck contohnya The Grave of War. We have already explained it that this is talking about the suffering of the common citizens in the era of the American Great Depressions. This story talking about a poor family that loses its farm during the depressions and travel to California to seek work, mencari pekerjaan ke California karena dia tidak bisa lagi panen atau tidak bisa lagi bertani. The family members here suffer conditions of feudal oppressions by rich landowners. Okay, and then the next is that the author is John Dos Passos. This is talking about social realisms. The example of the novel is the 40 Seconds, Parallel, 1919, and The Big Money. Yes, the novel covers about the social history of the United States from 90s to 1930s and expose the moral corruptions of materialistic American society through the lives of its characters. And then Sinclair Lewis criticized about the corruptions within American medicines. This is the example. Jadi menyoroti tentang korupsi yang ada di American medicines atau obat jual beli obat di sini ya. Obat yang seharusnya medicine yang seharusnya digunakan untuk membantu masyarakat, tapi ini menjadi lahan bisnis gitu. Ini yang disorot di sini ya. And then also critics on businessmen on the novels of Babbitt, critics on materialistic way of life of Americans in the novel of Main Street, and then critics on religions on the novel of Elmer Gantry. Okay, now we go to the literary currents, new criticism. Yeah, new criticism here. New criticism is one of the theory for analyzing the modernist literature. Okay, Ransom, the leading theorist of Southern Renaissance between the wars, published a book, The New Criticism, in 1941. On this method, offered an alternative to the previous literary method of criticism based on history and biography. Jadi metode analisis sastra sebelumnya itu dengan menggunakan biographical approach atau historical approach. Menganalisis sastra dengan mengaitkannya ke dalam kehidupan pribadi pengarang dan menganalisis sastra dengan mengaitkan dengan keadaan sosial kondisi pada saat sastra itu ditulis, itu ada apa. Itu metode lama. Kemudian di sini new criticism, metode baru, new method. Tentang apa? Bagaimana? This is understanding the literature through close reading. Yeah, evaluated the work through the text itself. Yeah, we try to analyze the work through the intrinsic elements of the literature. We analyze the story from the plot, character and characterizations point of view, and then we analyze the poem from the imagery, metaphors, sound symbols, and the others. Okay, We go to the poetry in this era. This is talking about the technique also in making a poem. Experiments in form. Jadi mostly the poet here experiments in making the technique, yeah, in making the poem here. What's the techniques here using? The first is making an imagism. Imagism is the portrait of something that is used as a poem. We use a portrait of something, and we use this portrait to describe something here that's as a poem. Seperti in a stations of a metro, gambaran dari stations of metro, itu dijadikan puisi yang sudah kita bahas di modernism in English ya. Oke, ada free verse, associative technique in the poem of the wasteland, spacing and syntax. Jadi puisinya itu kadang ada apa? Tidak ada spasinya. Kadang antar kata itu digabung. This is a play with the spacing and syntax. And then punctuations and capitalizations. Huruf besar. Sometimes in the middle of the words dikasih huruf besar, tetapi di kalimat pertama tidak huruf besar. That is the play with the punctuations and capitalizations and symbolism. This is the example of the poet and the poems and the characteristic here. Ezra Pound. We have already known that he is one of the leading figure also in English, with the characteristic of imagism here, symbolism and free verse. Okay, for William Carlos William here, the example is this is just to say. Okay, look at this is the picture of plums. Yeah, one of the fruits, one of the name of fruits here. So this portrait, William Carlos used to make a poem. The poem is, this is just to say, I have eaten the plums that were in the ice box and which you were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me, they were delicious, so sweet and so cold. Okay, this is the example of the poem by William Carlos William. And then Hard Crane, the bridge. Let's say to another example of the poem in this era. This is In Just by A. Cumming. Here, the poem play with the capitalizations here, and also space and syntax. Yeah, in which that here, the capital is located in the second word here, not in the first word. Just, maybe it's an emphasis on the word in just spring, ya, in which in just spring. Kemudian ada spasi di sini. When the world is mud, ada hyphen. Mud Lucius with the little lamb balloon man. Ini nggak digabung ya, seharusnya kan digabung the little lamb balloon man, tapi ini dipisah ya. Oke, whistles. Nah, kemudian spasi far, spasi and we. In just spring, di musim semi, when the world is mud Lucius, ketika dunia itu berlumpur. Jadi sebelum musim semi kita kan ada winter ya di situ. Kemudian setelah musim semi ini mulai berganti ya, dengan yang sebelumnya murah menjadi bahagia. And then the little lame balloon man whistles. Kemudian penjual balon ini bersiul. Dari jauh dia bersiul, and then far and we and Eddie and Bill. Di sini kita lihat ada penggabungan kata. Eddie and Bill ini adalah dua nama, Eddie and Bill, but the space is removed. There is no space here. So Eddie and Bill come running from marbles and erases, and it's spring. This is the spring in which that all of the people come out of home to celebrate this. Yeah. Okay, this is the example, and then look at the form. The form is totally different with the conventional poetic style. Yeah. This is the experiment in the form also. Okay, besides the poem imagisms, we also has Another poem by T.S. Eliot here. For example, like The Wasteland. This is a poem which use an associative technique. Yeah, the associative technique of writing poem was used intertextuality. Ya, penggabungan dari beberapa teks yang lain digabungkan menjadi satu yang mempunyai asosiasi yang sama. Ya. A collections of seemingly random literary, historical, philosophical, or religious allusions with which reader are expected to make the connections on their own. The example can be seen on the poem of Wasteland. Yeah. And then Robert Frost, stopping by woods on a snowy evening, the road not taken, fire and ice, the death of the hired man. This is, I think that you are familiar with the poem by Robert Frost here, because uh, mostly in the course of poem it has been introduced to the students. Yeah, this is a rhyming poem. Yeah, for the stopping by woods on a snowy evening here, Robert Frost wrote the traditional farm life, appealing to a nostalgia for the old ways. And then for the death of the hired man here, this is a long poem primarily concerning like a conversations, like a narrative. Yeah. Okay. Wallace Stevens, Robinson Jeffers. Yeah. Okay, this is the example of the poem by Robert Frost. The title is Fire and Ice. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I have tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction's eyes is also great and would suffice. Okay, this is talking about the destructions of the world. Could be and in fire or could be and in ice. Yeah, maybe it refers to the World War One or Cold War. Okay, and then we look at the rhyme here. The poem is rhyming here. Kebanyakan rimanya semua sama di a di sini ya. Okay, and then in the stations of metro, this is example of imagism. Yeah. In stations of metro here, the poem is an observations by the both of the human faces seen in subway stations. It looks to be a modern adoption of the Japanese haiku, seperti haiku ya, puisi haiku yang ada di Jepang. Okay, we next to go to the American drama. Here, American drama is also called as the expressionism drama. Yeah? Expressionist theater here seeks to display strong emotions, psychological or spiritual awakening and suffering of their protagonists. Jadi memperlihatkan strong emotions, psychological or spiritual awakening and suffering of their protagonists. The example is by Eugene O'Neill. One of them is Isle. Isle is a play in one act about human alienations from nature. This drama explore about the pressures of love and reputations and the temperaments of men and women. We will talk about Isle after this. And then Desire Under the Elms. This is recreates the passions hidden within a family. And then The Great Brown. This is uncover the unconsciousness of a wealthy businessman. And then Strange Interlude. This is this drama used stream of consciousness form of psychological monologue. And then Mornings becomes Electra, explore the Freudian pressures of love and dominance within families. Okay, in a trilogy of a plays based on the classical Oedipus trilogy by Sophocles. Ya, jadi Oedipus ini salah satu classic literature ya dari Greek. The Iceman Cometh, yeah, a stark work on the theme of death. Okay, and then Long Stay Journey into Night. This is a powerful extended autobiography in dramatic form, focusing on the family and the physical and psychological deteriorations witnessed in the course of one night. Cerita dari problem dari sebuah keluarga ya. yang mana menderita ketergantungan obat-obatan. Ini ceritanya. Okay. And then there is also social drama by Clifford Odets. Yeah, this is an experimental one-act drama that talking about advocated labor unionism. And then there's also the ending machine, street scenes by Elmer Rice, and then Our Town and the Skin of Our Teeth by Thornton Wilder. Okay, this is the example of the drama written by Eugene O'Neill, Isle. This is talking about a captain of a whale ship that go to the voyage to search for the oil from the whale in the middle of the sea, and he also asks his wife to join here. But after the 2 years of the voyage, the wife would like to back home. However, here the captain uh, forced the crew and also the wife to still in the voyage to continue the voyage, and he doesn't want to back home until uh, the the ship is full of the whale oil. Yeah, this is about love and reputations here. Okay, next is Harlem Renaissance. Harlem Renaissance, what is it? This is Harlem is one of the town in the Manhattan, New York City, yeah, in which the creativity and the artistic sparkling centered here in the city, yeah, during the 1920s. At the time, it also known as the New Negro Movement. Here, jazz musicians like Duke Wellington becoming stars beloved across the United States and overseas. Jadi di sini berjayanya kembali kebangkitan dari Afro-American karya-karya musik maupun sastra dari orang kulit hitam Amerika, Afro-American, ya. And who are the prominent or leading figures here? Ada Langston Hughes, Carl Van Vechten, Countee Cullen, Jean Tomer, Richard Wright, Zora Neale Hurston. Now we take a look on the box here. Langston Hughes for the poem. This is a very famous poem. The Negro Speaks Rivers. That's the title. And what is the poem talking about? This is talking about yes, this is talking about the African culture here. The African culture will endure and deepen so as the good rivers of the world. Ya, itu ya. Kemudian ada juga novelnya karya Carl van Vechten ini simpatetik ya. The novel gives some idea of the complex and bittersweet life of Black America in the face of economy and social inequality. Ini kisah pahit manis dari warga Afro-Amerika di tengah-tengah social inequality atau di tengah-tengah kesenjangan sosial antara kulit hitam dengan kulit putih. Kemudian ada juga autobiography by Richard Wright. What is autobiography talking about? Judulnya Black Boy. Yeah, the autobiography judulnya Black Boy. And here the writers describe his youth in the South Mississippi and his eventual move to Chicago. This is the honest and profound depictions of racism in America. Jadi kisah nyata bagaimana perjalanan hidupnya dari muda sampai dengan dia pindah ke Chicago, gitu ya. Portrait of racism, potret dari rasisme yang ada di Amerika, gitu ya. Kemudian ada novel Native Son. What is it talking about? This is talking about black youth living under poverty in a poor area in a Chicago, ya. Okay, and also a folklore, cerita rakyat oleh Zora, ya. Moles and Men, the novel, and also autobiography. Okay, that's all about the Modernism and Harlem Renaissance. This is in order to test whether you understand the material or not, you might answer these questions. The first, what is American modern literature? The second, what are the characteristics of literary works in this period? The third, who are the leading authors, poets, and playwrights in this period? And then four, which of the literary works that you are familiar with? And then the fifth, what is Harlem Renaissance? Okay, that's all about modernism and Harlem Renaissance. And this is the reference. I took the materials from Outline of American Literature. And thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.